I can't believe I did that.
I can't believe you did that either.
I can't believe we did an entire hour-long podcast and I didn't turn on the recording for either the audio recorder or the camera.
Yeah.
So we have nothing.
Correct.
Hello again. Welcome to episode number 5
Wow.
of the podcast. I know.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? California exploring. This should be a good episode.
We go outside California and we actually go to
Alabama.
Talladega.
Talladega.
Yeah.
We said that kind of backwards, but that's all right. So we just got back from a huge trip. As she said, we went to Talladega, guest of NASCAR.
Yes.
For a long weekend. Flew out on Friday, came back on Monday, and a million different things in between. We'd actually planned on trying to record this podcast while we're in Talladega, but our schedule was so jammed full, and then there was some rain coming in and it just didn't work out. So we're doing it late at night for the second time because I forgot to record anything at all. So do you want to start? So it was an adventurous trip and it like right from the very beginning. So Friday morning,
we woke up at 2 a.m. and the plan was to leave the house at 3 and drive to LAX. So we called the Uber driver. And as we were waiting for the driver, I happened to look at my phone and I said, "Oh, there's a fire." And you said, "How big is it?" And I said, "It's big." And we had no idea how big that fire really was. So it was the Saddle Ridge. Thank you. Saddle Ridge fire. And it basically spanned across the 6 highways that we needed to be on, at least one of those, to get to LAX. And that wasn't going to happen. All of the highways were closed. They were starting to evacuate down in the Sylmar area, which is about what?
10 miles from here.
10 miles from here, yeah.
Yeah.
And
if even that. Yeah, because the valley that we live in, we're north of LA. We're about as far north as you can get.
Yeah.
And still be part of LA. And there's only a few ways to get out of here.
Right, because we live in a valley, which is like this. And this is the 5 and this is the 14 and here's us. And these are all closed, as is the 210, as is the 118, all of them.
The hand gestures are awesome.
Yeah, that helps really
clear.
illustrate, I think, like I should be a weather girl, like right over here. So
anyway, we got in the Uber and he said, about the fire. And at that point, I didn't really have a clue what was going on, how big it was. So we headed out over towards the 14. The plan was to go east over the mountains and then down to LAX. But once we got over there, they had actually closed that route before we even got there.
One of the back routes through the canyons.
And we could see the fire in the distance, and it was huge because it's dark. It's 3:30 in the morning. So we wound up having to take a different route, turning around, coming all the way back across our valley, heading towards Ventura West, which is on the coast. We got about halfway to Ventura, then turned to go up into the mountains. Up
into the mountains on a pitch dark road with hairpin turns full of traffic, which was not my favorite part of the trip.
Yeah, because everyone was going that way because it was literally the only way to get south. So south of us is LA, Burbank, Hollywood, Santa Monica, Century City. Basically, everybody that lives in this valley works down that way, and a lot of the people are in the entertainment industry. And so we were actually lucky to get out when we did, because most of the freeways were closed at that point. We drove over up through the mountains, back down, got on the 118, and the 118 was just choked with smoke.
Yeah.
And the fire, we'd heard reports that the fire had actually kind of stopped at the edge of the 118 at one point. It was kind of a barrier for it. But not too long after we passed through that area, they closed the 118, and we never ever would have made our flight.
No.
At that point.
And the car, even though the windows were up, you could just smell the smoke and just the red glow all around it. It was kind of scary.
And there were emergency vehicles everywhere. Because with these mountains and canyons, you never know which way the fire's going to go, and it was really windy.
So after the most expensive Uber ride ever, so about triple what we thought the original price popped
up. What Uber
up.
told us they were going to charge us. It's supposed to be upfront pricing, but apparently that doesn't.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a shock to start our trip. But we made it to the airport just in time.
We did. We got there. We got through security, got to the gate, and like 3 minutes later, they started boarding.
Yes.
So everything works out.
Everything works out. It was a perfectly nice flight, except that I was now freaking out about the fire and texting because we didn't have internet on the plane, but I could text.
Well, we had internet, but it was like $30 for
and I had no more money because I just spent it all on the Uber. So, texting back and forth with some friends, coworkers, and thank you for those updates. Then we landed.
And Toyota had hooked us up for the weekend. They provided us with a 2019 Toyota Tundra 1794
sweet
pickup truck.
It was really sweet.
It was gorgeous. It was this metallic flake brown color that just glowed in the sun. Mm-hmm. It had.
It was a manly car.
It was very manly. It had. Saddle brown cowhide leather interior, suede on the seats.
Yeah.
It had a lacquer finished wood steering wheel accent on it. And the 1794 edition was actually, it's a limited edition to honor Toyota moved from Torrance, California, here in Southern California, several years ago out to Texas, and they bought a ranch called, I have it here somewhere, I think. Oh, well, they purchased a ranch that was actually founded in 1794, and that's where they built their production facility that builds all the Tacomas and Tundras in the United States. So kind of paying homage to the ranch that they were located on.
But more importantly, I had like my little trifecta going on. I had my boots, I had my pickup truck, I had my country music going, we had the windows down, driving through.
Too,
Did I?
No, I think you get that on.
No, I put, I saved that. But driving through Georgia and Alabama, I'm a Chicago girl, moved to LA, but deep down inside me, there's this little Southern girl that likes to come out every now and then.
There's a little bit of country.
There's a little bit of country, y'all. So, yeah.
So yeah, we got into Atlanta, jumped in the Tundra, headed over to Talladega, about 2 hours, I think. Mm-hmm. Stopped at one point to stock up on groceries for the weekend because NASCAR had set us up in this unbelievable RV.
Amazing.
Parked on the infield. Class A RV, huge, very luxurious. And even better than that was the parking spot.
Parking spot number 1, meaning we were literally in the parking spot on the finish line labeled parking spot number 1.
Yeah, it was parking spot number 1 in the finish line luxury RV parking.
Correct.
Which meant that the nose of the RV was pointed right at the finish line, and the track was 20 feet away from the front of the RV.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah. Unbelievable.
So we got to the RV. Actually, we met the NASCAR rep who brought us in, and
Christy was great. By the way,
Christy
thank you.
Was amazing. Yeah, she not only planned this entire weekend for us, but stopped while she was driving down from Charlotte. Stopped and bought all the amenities we would need for the weekend: the blankets and pans and paper plates and stuff, and stocked the RV for us. So that was really above and beyond, and made a huge difference in the weekend. Just us not having to worry about all that stuff. So we got to the RV. Christy showed us around a little bit, and then she headed out. And our plan was we had about an hour and a half before the Friday evening festivity started on the infield. And the infield at any racetrack, but Talladega in particular, is just one huge week-long party.
Right.
People literally show up in RVs. They can start partying the Saturday before the race. So
and just
8
so
days
many
before.
people.
Thousands.
It
and
was like a
thousands of
city.
people.
Yeah.
And on the infield, and then the entire track is surrounded by campgrounds and tens
Right.
of thousands of people camping out there as well.
And Christy mentioned, a lot of people think, oh, it's so expensive, Talladega, but they actually have free camping. And they have special camping sites just for families
Right.
as well, if you don't want to go and do the
To
whole
try and
party
cut down
scene.
on the party noise thing. Yeah. So we got to the RV. The plan was we had about an hour and a half. I had visions of stretching out on the bed. I mean, we'd been up since 2 a.m. We drove, an Uber ride 2.5 hours to get to the airport, 4-hour flight, 2-hour drive over to Talladega. I wanted to just stretch out a little bit and relax. But that wasn't to be.
No.
We
dropped off
stepped
the gear.
out of the trailer. We got everything put in the trailer, but not put away yet.
Yes.
And we stepped out to kind of survey the area and look at the track. And a golf cart came screeching up to us.
Yes. And we were like, okay.
So,
and this guy came out and he's like, you're coming with me. Like, we've
been waiting for you all day.
We've been waiting for you. That's what he said. And Christy warned us. She's like, your neighbors are really excited to meet you guys, and they started cooking for you. And we just kind of laughed like, oh, okay, Southern hospitality, how nice. But no, they were watching for us. And so they pulled up and said, you're coming with us. Drove us across the campgrounds to a different segment, I guess they call it. And we had some fried catfish.
Yep. Yeah, so we were kidnapped, taken over.
Yeah.
They had some family that had camped in a different part of the infield. And like she said, we had fried catfish and hung out with people we'd never met before. But they were awesome. They were very friendly. And you had a crowd of guys around you at one point.
Oh, stop. And it was interesting because they were telling us that they had actually met from their camping experiences. So they hadn't known each other prior to meeting to Talladega, but now they made a point to meet up and sort of make a camp community and form the bonds that way. And it kind of reminded us of our old camping trips that we used to go on.
Yeah. And I think that from what we've heard, that was kind of common across not only this race, but all the races. But people would go to a race and they would take an RV or set up a tent or a camper or whatever. And then they would get to know the people immediately around them, and then they would form this little mini community, and then every year they would all go back together and make sure that they camped in the same spot.
Yeah. That was kind of a theme that we saw, too, is just this sense of like a NASCAR travel tribe. You have all the fans kind of doing that together. You have the owners and the drivers set up in a special RV campground for themselves. The crews, it was just really neat.
So we excused ourselves and asked for a ride back. We
Please.
had, because, like I said, we literally stepped out of the RV and he said, jump on, and we jumped on the golf cart and we were gone. I didn't have my camera with me. We didn't have any equipment.
Yeah.
And that Friday night, they had something called the Big One on the Boulevard. And basically a semi pulls a trailer that kind of looks like a stage right through the middle of the infield, in amongst all of the RVs, and there's tents and booths set up for booze and food and all kind of stuff. And on this trailer, 4 or 5 of the drivers ride along and kind of interact with the fans. So they're tossing out T-shirts, they're tossing out beads, and it's kind of a real
music
fun way.
Playing and
music
lights
just
flashing.
blasting. It's a whole spectacle to kind of kick off the weekend. So that was kind of cool.
Yep.
And then they pulled around to this big fenced off, I guess, party area. And at that point, I had been up for like 19 hours, and we made our exit and kind of headed back over to the RV.
Yep.
For a little bit of quiet.
Then the next morning, we awoke to the sound of the pace cars going around the track, screaming around the track. Yeah, just being in that proximity to the track itself. I mean, just feet away from the RV. It's kind of cool to wake up to, though. And they had special pace cars sponsored by Team Chevy, painted pink Camaros, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so
Well, I think the pace car rides were for survivors, right?
Correct, yes.
Wasn't that the
Yep.
whole deal? Is they on Saturday and Sunday they had pace car rides set up for media and
Mm-hmm.
for other VIPs, but these were for survivors. So
Correct.
they had, and these were the actual pace cars for the race that happened on Sunday.
right.
But yeah, we're laying in bed and we hear screaming by, but
Yeah.
it was cool. It was cool.
really cool.
It didn't bother me because it's just something about that sound.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And I grew up on NASCAR. You know, when I was a little girl, I used to sit with my dad on Sunday afternoons, and as long as I was quiet, I could sit there with him and watch the race for hours and hours, and he would sit there and try and explain to me who Dale Earnhardt was, and I swear if I was a boy, I'd be named Dale. But it was his dream to become one of those drivers or work in the pit crew, and often he used to race down at Joliet Speedway until, I came along. But just this entire trip brought back so many memories, and it kind of started with that sound for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got up the next morning, as you said, we were woken up by the pace cars. We didn't have anything scheduled too early that first morning, which was good because we needed to kind of catch up a little bit and get ready for the day. And then Christy, our NASCAR rep, came by, picked us up, took us over so that we could get all our credentials.
Press credentials, yep.
And other credentials.
Yep.
So we got our ticket that basically was our entrance to the race, our entrance to the infield. We had passes all over the place, wristbands all over the place. The main pass gave us access to the media center. It gave us access to the pits. It gave us access to the garage, the infield. And then on the backside, there was another pass, a hot pass.
Hot pass, yep.
So there are hot and cold passes. If it's a cold pass, you can go in the garages in the pit area if there are not cars running. So if they're not practicing or qualifying or racing, you can go in the pit area. If you have a hot pass, you can go out there when the cars are running, which is
Right.
what we had. So we had full access basically anywhere we wanted to go
Hot
in the
and
entire
cold.
racetrack except for on the track.
Yeah. We wouldn't want to be there
We
anyway.
were not allowed to go out there. So we went and got all of our credentials,
Yeah.
got all set up with that. And then we attended the driver crew chief meeting.
Yes. And we had a chance to meet the chairman of Talladega,
Met the president of the track.
president of the track, managing director.
Yeah.
We met a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
one of the nice things is that Christy, our NASCAR rep, worked at Talladega for 7 years. So she knew everybody. We couldn't walk anywhere around that racetrack for 4 days without someone coming up and giving her a hug and asking her how her son was doing. And
Yeah, her goofing around with Joey Logano. Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
So the driver crew chief meeting basically is the safety meeting. It's all the rules for the day. This is for the Saturday race, which was the Sugarlands Shine 250, which
Yep.
is the
Truck race.
try to get that's the NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series.
Truck race.
Truck race. So that was on the agenda for Saturday, and I had a blast.
I did too. That was really cool.
We got in. We got to spend a little bit of time walking around the garages and getting some pictures, and then we headed out to the pit area,
Yes. Pit
And-
row, they call it.
pit row.
Yep.
And it was so cool because you can't go in the actual team pits. You know, first of all, there's no room.
Right.
There's tires stacked everywhere and guys and gas cans and stuff. And obviously it's restricted. But not every pit area was taken.
Right.
And a pit area literally is about the size of a car.
Yeah.
So the pit areas that weren't taken, we were able to actually go right up to the wall on the edge of
Right.
pit row.
And see the
take
cars
some
pull in.
amazing pictures. Not only see the cars in the pits and watch the pit crews work, but have that absolute clear access to the track too.
Yeah.
And to see the cars are the trucks coming by.
And in addition to the 900 bracelets and wristbands and hot and cold passes and credentials that we're wearing as part of our ensemble, we also had to have special vests on indicating that we were press photographers in order to get access into those pits.
Right.
So that was kind of cool too.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're there and we're there in the pit with Fox News and ESPN and yeah. I mean, all with us taking photos, and I'm there with
Sirius
my iPhone.
Radio was there. We met a few folks from Sirius.
We did, but I'm there with my iPhone, and you guys all have these like massive cameras. But that's the Where Gals Wander style. We do it with the iPhone. Yeah, it's supposed to be. We're regular people, and
Well, I'm a regular person.
No, you're not.
So the truck race was amazing. I was lucky. I just kind of posted up some in one of the empty pits and happened to have my iPhone out and the camera app open when one of the trucks raced in, literally right next to me.
Yeah.
So I think I posted that up on
Suburban
IGTV.
Men. Yep. On
Suburban Men. In the mic.
And I have some additional footage as well on WhereGalsWander.com. So there.
So the
can I tell the story about number 10?
Yes.
So one thing that I think is just so cool about NASCAR is the relationship between the drivers and the fans. I mean, first of all, the drivers are walking around talking with the fans in the garage areas. They are walking through the infield, just this rapport and level of access. But at one point during the Sugarlands Shine truck race, number 10, Jennifer, and I'm blanking on her last name, but pulled into the pit and basically needed new tires, and she had no tires in the pit. And I was really confused. I'm like, how can you go to NASCAR and not have tires in the pit? And Christy was telling us, yeah, she's a veteran. She's been doing this for a long time, but apparently it was just the ability where she wasn't able to have that available to her. And two of the fans of hers had gone down to the Goodyear tent in the garage area and actually purchased her 2 tires so that she could put them back on and continue the race, which I just thought was so amazing. I mean, that would be the equivalent of,
there's no equivalent to that.
There really isn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and she had literally pulled off into pit row and turned into the little side road that takes you back to the garages, thinking her day was done.
Yeah.
Because once you go back to the garages, you never come back out.
Right.
It's usually because your truck's damaged or your car's damaged. And then like 20 minutes later, I hear the guys next to me, the photographer's going, she's coming back out again. And she literally got the tires on, came back out, and finished the race.
Right.
And, kudos to her, too, for not giving up. And she is so far behind at this point. But, man, she came screaming out of the pits. And
she did.
Gave it her all. So the truck race was an absolute blast. And I'd never seen a truck race before and wasn't sure what to expect. And the speeds were a little bit shocking to me.
Yeah.
They come close to Cup Series car speeds. I think we were told they hit 180, maybe 190.
Yeah, they were screaming through the track.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So after that, we had some appointments set up to interview a few of the drivers. And this was really exciting.
This is really cool.
Really exciting. I had never done a formal one-on-one interview with a celebrity before.
Right.
So we go into the media center and we're taken into this little interview room, and it's maybe 6 feet by 8 feet, if it's even that. It's a tiny little room with a tiny little table and one chair in there. And I've got my audio recorder in one hand and my mic in the other hand, and I'm trying to figure out, making sure everything's turned on and it plugged in correctly, and how are we going to video this.
So you hand it to me.
No, you did the phone.
Yeah, that's right. I just used my phone, because
I wanted to make sure we got video on this too. And so we, the door opens and in comes Matt DiBenedetto.
Such a nice guy.
Oh my goodness, he was awesome.
He really was.
And that's, you're going to kind of hear a theme through this whole podcast on these drivers. They were all so nice and down to earth and
just real.
I spent 12, 13 minutes, I think, talking with him and just kind of getting all those first time guy questions out of the way. And he, answered everything and just, he was awesome.
He really was.
It's funny because, and we'll talk about this a little more with some of the other drivers too, but so I got to interview Matt and I think the next day we're walking through one of the areas and here he comes walking right by us to go get some pizza or something.
We were in the driver's owner's area that I mentioned before. Yeah.
And
he just comes out of his RV. Yeah.
Yeah. So got to interview Matt and I've got video on all this. I need to go through it all. It's all going to be posted on Suburban Men YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe to that. There's going to be a ton of video out there from this weekend. As well as all the social channels. I'm Suburban Men everywhere. So I'll be posting little snippets of video across all the social media. You'll be posting yours on WhereGalsWander.
Yep, and we'll get some up on California Exploring.
We will. We'll get something up there as well. So once I finished with Matt, we then had an interview scheduled with Kyle Larson.
Yes.
Who was last week, he won in Dover.
Yes.
So he pulled the checkered flag in Dover. And this time we actually went to his RV.
Yeah, we're just hanging
in the
out
owner's driver's area.
In front of his RV.
Right.
And he comes bouncing out.
He's inside in the RV watching the truck race. I think was still going on at this point. So he was inside watching the kind of the end of the truck race. And he came out. He was awesome. You got to ask him a couple of questions as well.
We both interviewed him, and you did more of the, I don't know.
I asked questions like pre-race rituals and what's your daily drive, or more stuff that guys would probably be interested in.
But I really wanted to understand who these guys were and just the motivation to get out there and do what they do. 36 weeks of the year, living on that edge and with that adrenaline, and so we did more of a meaning of life type of conversation. I only asked one question, I think.
But that was the thing. I think I asked each of them 10 questions and got good answers.
Yeah.
Right. Good, thoughtful answers. And then you would ask one question, you get a 10-minute answer.
Right.
On that one question.
Yeah. So, some of the questions that I asked
the drivers.
You
made them think.
Yeah. Well, that was supposed to be the point.
Right,
when you're not on the track and thinking about more to life, what's important to you and what inspires you, and how did you get motivated to do this, and how do you get motivated every day? How do you go out there on the track knowing that things are kind of beyond your control and managing that thought process and staying focused and knowing that you're a hero? So these are some of the questions that I was asking.
Right.
So we had deep, meaningful chats. Yes.
So we finished up with Kyle.
Yes.
And we're walking back out of the driver-owner RV area, and one of the RVs opens up, and Jimmie Johnson steps out, legendary Jimmie Johnson,
in his race suit,
with this little puppy in his hand, and apparently they're trying to potty train the puppy. So that's what he did right before heading over to qualifying.
The puppy was named Charlie Meatball. So we were trying not to stare, but it was kind of surreal.
Yeah, we're trying not to be the
tourist,
the pesky tourist fans,
right?
But the dog was so
Jimmie
cute,
Johnson.
And it's Jimmie Johnson.
I know. So legendary Jimmie.
Legendary. I'm gonna always call him that.
I know.
Legendary Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah.
So we finished up with the interview. We headed back over to the media center. Because the truck race had finished up and they were doing qualifying for the cup race that happened on Sunday, the 1000bulbs.com 500 race that was coming on Sunday. So they had to do the last bit of qualifying to set all the pole positions. And the drivers are required to meet with the press in kind of a scrum format, either before their qualifying run or after.
Yes.
And we got there like at the perfect time.
Yes.
Because the bigger name drivers tend to qualify later, so they would prefer to do their interviews early.
Yeah.
So when they're done qualifying, they're just done for the day. So we walk up to the back outside of the media center. There's a little temporary fence set up, and there's Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, and Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney, who I stepped up to interview and ended up winning the NASCAR
Ryan
race.
Blaney won the race the next day.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fortuitous.
That was. It's probably talking to me that gave him the good luck to.
I think
I think that's what it is.
I think that's it.
Yeah. And that interview is also up on WhereGalsWander.
Is that on? It's
Instagram?
on your site. It's on your socials.
Correct. It's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, but it will be up on my YouTube as well.
Yeah, you are.
Or you're going to help
prolific.
me put it up.
We literally will do one of these little things at one of these events, and I will go find somewhere quiet to sit and try to get one post up on Instagram or Twitter. And she's got like 12 posts up already.
I'm efficient.
It drives me crazy. I got to tell her to slow down sometimes.
I know. He's like, stop posting. I haven't posted as much as you. I'm like, we're both right here.
Yet.
We're both in the same place with the same equipment doing the same thing. Get on it.
But I'm still gathering content. I'm not thinking about putting it out yet.
I can't.
I would rather do the day, get the content, and then sit down and get it out.
And I'm much more in the moment.
You are OCD.
I'm not OCD.
We've discussed that before. You were OCD.
I'm driven.
So anyway, did the interviews, and it was pretty cool because it was one of those scenes you see with an athlete or a politician or whatever, where they're standing there, and there wasn't a lot of people there. I was surprised.
Reporters, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Someone would come out, a big name would come out, and then there would be maybe 10 people come up there, but then they would drift away. They would get their little soundbite and they'd drift away. And Kevin Harvick's talking and being interviewed by this woman from one of the race sites. I can't remember which one it was. But I literally just walked up with my phone and put my phone right in front of him.
Yeah.
And captured the questions and answers and stuff, like an interview thing. It was really cool. I like it. I actually have that one posted up, I think, on IGTV as well, with Kevin Harvick. So we finished the interviews. That was kind of it for the NASCAR scheduled stuff for the day.
Yeah.
We headed back over to the RV. We cooked out on our little grill, and
we made burgers and that outside on the grill.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the collective we.
I pulled the burgers out of the fridge.
You did. You did. That was awesome. And then got ready for the night's festivities.
Yes.
So, we mentioned we're on the infield. The infield is a massive party. They have stuff scheduled every night. So do you want to tell them about?
First, you just have to imagine what Woodstock looked like with all those tents, like rows and rows for miles.
Only these are $150,000 RVs.
Yeah, but there's tents and
there are.
And
there are tents and pop-ups and
some are decorated for Halloween, and there's giant inflatables, and there's people on I don't know what you call scaffolding on top of the RVs partying.
Yeah, they had little platforms set up because literally where we were parked, if we'd have crawled up on top of the RV, we would have had a perfect view of the track.
Yeah. And it's just crazy. And we made the comment that it was a good thing that we didn't come when we were young and stupid. So, but the concert I was kind of psyched about because it was Riley Green from Alabama, and opening for Riley was Tyler Braden. So that was pretty awesome. It was fun. Although I don't know if people were dressed up because it was Halloween or because it was Talladega, but there were a lot of men dressed up as minions and unicorns and other fantasy creatures, I guess, just kind of running around. And then
and there were copious amounts of alcohol.
And just interesting people watching. So yeah.
We got through the crowd as
far as we wanted to go.
as we were comfortable.
Yeah.
A lot of people talked to us.
Yeah.
as we're coming through. But everybody was nice.
So
no
nice.
incidents, and
Yeah.
saw some pretty intoxicated people, but
Yeah.
nobody's getting out of line. There were no fights. There was no arguments. There was nothing you would expect with that much alcohol and that many people in that tight of a situation.
Although an enormous police presence kind of throughout the entire venue.
Yes. Yeah. They pulled in departments from all around the area. Several counties and cities, and we're all kind of pulled in for this. But, when you get 150,000 people attending an event in a very small town, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. So
we spent a little bit of time at the concert, really enjoyed that. Alabama loves Riley Green.
Yes.
They, you had probably 20,000 people singing along with every song, every
including
word.
Me.
Including you.
Yeah.
And, hands in the air, beers in the air. And it was a good time. But then we kind of figured it was time to head back. We had an early morning scheduled the next morning on race day, Cup Day.
Yep.
So we headed back, and that was our day.
So early in the morning, we were scheduled to ride the pace car, actually with Austin Dillon, Ty Dillon's brother. And I was so excited to ride that pace car. I could not wait.
But it's not just a pace car ride. It's a pace car ride with a NASCAR driver.
Right.
You actually get to ride in a car with a NASCAR driver, and the insight that Austin would have been able to provide to us.
And we had the GoPros all set up, ready to go. But this morning we didn't wake to the sound of the pace cars. We woke to the sound of the rain hitting the metal roof of the RV. So,
rain and race cars do not go together.
No.
Especially in Talladega. Talladega is the fastest track. It's a 33-degree bank. It's a challenging track on a good day. So it, as she said, we woke up to the sound of rain pattering on the roof.
Right.
Ominous feeling immediately. We contacted, Christy from NASCAR. She said, hold tight. We're waiting for official word. And then about 5 minutes later, it just poured. And we knew at that moment we were done.
Yeah.
We were finished.
I also knew I was going to have a bad hair day.
Yeah, you kept asking me, is my hair okay? What should I do with my hair? And I said, you're either going to go out in the rain and it's going to get ruined, or you're going to wear a hat. So
so you'll see in all the pictures of that
you got
day.
A little break on hair day.
It was a hat and a T-shirt and a flannel and at one point a windbreaker.
Which is, you're at NASCAR. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
That's pretty much what I wear on the weekends anyway. Yeah. So,
but the good thing was the rest of the day until the race, we had a bunch of stuff scheduled, and it was all inside.
For the most part, yes.
For the most part, but everything worked out well for us. So after we waited a little while, when we were supposed to be out on the pace car, and I can't wait to do that again sometime. I
know.
I was really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But we have more interviews scheduled. So we headed back over to the garage area and got to talk to Ty Dillon.
And it was actually in front of his hauler.
It was. We were in so a hauler is the big vehicle that the backup car and all of the parts and all the logistics and everything they need to move from track to track for that race team is kept and stored.
Yep. Car parts.
So we got to talk to Ty. What an amazingly nice guy.
Oh my gosh.
He just had a smile on his face and such a positive attitude. And Suzanne was actually going to interview his wife a little bit later. So I asked him the question, we're going to talk to Haley in a little bit. What question would you like us to ask her? And he started talking about her creative side and her artistic side, and that we should explore that. And then you had a few minutes to talk with him.
So during my interview with him, he just continued to talk about Haley and how she was his best friend and support. And we talked again about that theme of the travel tribe and how the kids of the drivers are kind of growing up together, in this environment, and how the kids are now friends, and they'll actually request for their families to be near each other so the kids can play. And when we were there over the last weekend, everything was decorated for Halloween. They had trick-or-treating for the drivers and owners' kids and the crew. So it was just such a different side to hear about when you hear about NASCAR and not thinking of it from that community standpoint.
Yeah, it wasn't just, it's not what it was probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not the machismo and the
cutthroat.
And they mentioned that, 20 years ago, drivers would tell them who they didn't want to be parked by. And now these are the people I want to be parked by, because the wives have bonded or the kids have bonded or, the MRO, the ministry for the drivers, actually sets up a little playground right in the middle of the owner-driver
it has
RV
child
area
care
that
and
has
such
bouncy
too.
houses.
Yeah.
They have child care. It's a pretty amazing support network that they have and a very, very tight-knit community.
And kind of touching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we finished up with Ty.
Yeah.
And then we left the garage hauler area, headed back over to the driver's RV area and waited for Haley.
Yeah, and she and Ty were in chapel at that point because it was a couple hours before the race.
Sunday morning.
And as she rode up in the golf cart, introduced ourselves, we started talking, but then there was this car about 6
it was just
feet
across
away.
the road. Yeah.
And the car alarm went off and wouldn't turn off.
This poor guy is trying to get into his truck, and the car alarm goes off, and he sees us.
Yeah.
Because you're interviewing Haley, and I'm holding the phone, videoing, but I'm watching this poor guy, and I can see the panic in his eyes because he knows you're interviewing him. He doesn't know who we are.
Right. But he knows who Haley is and knows that she's being interviewed.
Right. Because he was part of one of the teams. Right. He wouldn't even have been in there. But he's trying to get this car alarm turned off, and you guys kind of nervously giggled at one point, oh, this happens, and then it kept going, and then you both laughed a little bit, and then Haley said, let's keep going. And I think
we tried.
I think you tried to ask one more question, but I think the video is going to be funny.
Yeah.
I would post it. For me, I would post trying to get the question out, and who knows? I mean, maybe it'll be clear enough you can hear.
We'll see
what you were saying.
But we only had 10 minutes with her because she wanted to have some time with Ty before the race.
Right.
We were, an hour and a half before the race started. So, but I appreciate her taking a couple minutes to chat with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
So then.
Oh.
It was time for
the legendary
final driver interview.
Yes.
With 7-time NASCAR champion, Cup champion.
Yeah.
The only 5-time consecutive Cup winner. The legendary. And the nicest guy.
Jimmie Johnson. Such an unbelievably down-to-earth, intelligent, nice guy.
He just had a presence about him. He had that cool guy presence.
That leadership that just kind of came off of him, but yet again so approachable, so friendly.
So I really enjoyed talking with him. And I actually introduced him in the video that I'll post the same way I just did. And he said, wow, that's quite an introduction. But I mean, it's Jimmie Johnson. He's won the NASCAR Cup 7 times, and only 2 other men in history have been able to say that, and that's Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. So that's pretty good company to
no kidding
to be in. But I really enjoyed talking with him, and coming out of the weekend and getting to talk with one-on-one with 4 of the drivers. I'm a fan of all of them. I liked all of those guys, and when the race came around,
it was hard to cheer for.
I didn't want to root for anyone in particular because I wanted them to all do well and be safe and make it through the race. And I think this is a sport that I don't have to have a favorite. I don't have to have a team. They were also giving it their time, and it kept going through my mind, and it blew me away that we're literally an hour and a half before the start of the race. And I'm standing here at Jimmie Johnson's RV talking with him, and he's taking the time to do that.
And we again had a very meaningful conversation about the meaning of life.
Yeah.
With Jimmie. And I mean, he really gave some excellent answers and just insights. Like, I could have talked to him all day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'd definitely love to get the opportunity to, build this podcast up and get him to sit down with us for a half an hour sometime, possibly in the future, maybe when, they come out to Vegas or Phoenix. We can.
Yeah. We should just have him over to the house.
And we had talked
we went to his RV. He might as well come over here and just hang with us.
I'll cook out.
Yeah.
He can play with the dog in the yard. The dogs
He can
play.
bring Charlie Meatball
Charlie
to
Meatball can play with Molly.
Yeah. So.
So that was the end of the drivers' interviews, and like I said, we'll both have video up everywhere. Suburban Men, California Exploring, WhereGalsWander. But then I had something that I was really looking forward to, and again, the drivers were awesome. But I got the chance to talk with Travis Geisler, who's the competition director.
Correct.
For Team Penske.
Yes.
So he was...
And Team Penske, just to clarify, that's 3 different cars.
They have 3 teams. Team Penske is huge in racing.
Yeah.
If anybody is watching that's a race fan, they know who Team Penske
but
and who
if
Roger
there
Penske is.
I'm here to help.
You're here to clarify the obvious.
That's right. That's what I do best. I point out the obvious.
So Travis is in charge of the haulers. He's in charge of logistics, the parts, the strategies for race day, the things that you don't think about.
Analytics.
The analytics, the fact that every track is different, every day is different, the weather's different, depending on if it's a short track or a long track, if it's a bank track or a flat track, if it's
the super secret second car.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Do you want to tell your second car story?
Yeah. So we were by the hauler, and I noticed that there's like a garage.
Watch the hand gesture.
There's like a garage. Well, it's like a second roof over the hauler thing, but it looks like a garage door, but it's a roof. And then you see that there's a second story. And so I was fascinated by this, and I was asking.
You asked 3 different people.
I asked everybody. I'm like, what is that? And what's up there? And they're like, that's the second car. And I didn't understand, so I kept asking. But apparently they keep a spare car in case something happens to the original race car, either in the practice runs or the qualifying. So this is the backup car. I thought it was...
It's a pretty simple concept. They bring a backup car. If the first car crashes or
it's on the top of the hauler. That's just what freaked me out. Like, how do they get the car down?
Well, because they have all the parts and stuff in the
car
bottom.
parts. Yeah.
Car parts.
Car parts.
It's just a platform that raises up, and then they drive the car in the upper level of the hauler.
I know.
Okay.
It's cool.
All right, we got the second car story out. Yay! So anyway, I got a great conversation. I'll let you finish.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
A great conversation with Travis, and got a complete tour of the hauler.
Command center.
Yeah. So he explained all the logistics and what they do for race day and how they get from track to track and how they manage the parts. And he opened up one of the cabinets inside, and there were literally 150 different coil springs because, like I said, depending on the type of track and the weather and the temperature and all that stuff, will determine the gear, the kit that goes on the car for that specific track. And they have to plan that out in advance. And there's a little bit of, a little bit of guesswork involved there on what's going to work best on their car at that track on that day. So they've got to carry enough stuff with them. And I asked him at one point, is there any limitation on the number of things? I thought maybe NASCAR would say, you can bring this many of this or this many of this. No. He said, no, the Department of Transportation allows us 80,000 pounds, and we use all 80,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So they pack in everything they absolutely can in this hauler. So it's really, it's a semi trailer with cabinets down both sides all the way from front to back. In the very front of it, there's a command center with computers and weather radar and all kind of stuff, so they can monitor everything that's going on with the team.
Yeah.
And then the toolboxes that are in the garage actually fit perfectly in that aisle. So everything, it's just, I mean,
Like
they
a
use
jigsaw puzzle.
every single inch. Every single inch of that trailer is filled with something, and everything has its place. And,
Yeah.
so that was awesome. And again, we're an hour before race time, and Travis took, almost a half an hour to kind of walk me through all that. And that's a great
was really
interview.
cool.
And that interview is actually live now. It's on the Suburban Men YouTube channel. So please go out and watch that video. Give it a like, subscribe. What do they say? Smash that like button.
You
Hit
say
the
that.
subscribe. I don't know. I watch Peter McKinnon. He says all that crap, and hit that little bell so you get reminders when I post a new video. So we finished up with the hauler tour, and then we went over and did the garage experience.
Yes, which was really cool.
It was really cool. So it's
the ultimate fan experience for anyone in NASCAR. It is the opportunity to go into a food court / bar / lounge area, but it's in the middle of the actual garages. So the pit crews are working on the cars. Garage crews.
Yep.
So there's the drivers, and they're prepping the car, and they're getting ready to take it off for inspections. And you're sitting there in a couch, drinking moonshine, watching all this. It was unbelievable. And the only thing keeping you from the garage is just a small sort of waist-high chain link fence, and drivers are coming over and signing autographs and talking with the fans, and every single driver has that setup. So you're walking literally in a circle almost around that garage experience.
Right. So it's a big open covered area called
Big Bills.
Big Bills.
With flashing lights on the ceiling and stuff.
And it's, like you said, it's a big open atrium area. And at the backside, the entire wall is a Sugarlands Shine.
Yes. Moonshine bar. Yep.
And then down both sides are the front of the garages that we had toured before.
Right.
So before we were in the garage area, and it looked like a garage area, there's all of these stalls with the garage doors. Well, the garage experience allows you to go and grab a drink and then kind of walk along the front of the garages and watch what they're doing. And and so each garage bay had the car, the tools, the diagnostics and all that stuff. The teams, like you said, getting it ready for inspection. They had a TV monitor set up there with the driver's name and number and stuff, so you know whose car that was. And that was very cool.
It was cool. That was one of my favorite parts. It was like being in the locker room, before a game. I mean, just having that level of access.
So let me ask you this. So we had spent a couple hours already at this point in the garages. We were out on the backside of the garage, out where they're actually doing the work and pulling the cars out and stuff. What made the garage experience more special? Or was it just the whole thing?
It was the whole thing. And I think it was just the amount of energy and the vibe that was going on, watching behind the scenes, all of the preparation and the level of detail going into it. And probably my favorite part was when they were done with the inspections and they would walk/roll the car onto the track.
Yes.
So the crew would literally push the car, through the whole area.
Pull the toolbox behind.
Right. And just watching almost like a parade go through to get them lined up. And
I guess the difference in the garage experience from being out in the garages where we were initially is we were with fans.
Yeah.
And you got to walk by people going, oh my God, and seeing their idol's car and being literally 10 feet away from the hood of your idol's car.
And just these little kids and their face lighting up, and one of them got an autograph on his jersey, and I mean, it just, right here, So.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of, I'm a baseball fan.
Yeah.
I'm mourning my Cardinals today. They got eliminated yesterday, but, watching the kids lean over from the seats and having the players come up and sign the autographs and stuff for them, that's very cool. So we finished up with the garage experience. We headed back over to the media center to grab some lunch. They had a little patio set up and catered food in.
Yeah, you did not
Is this
have a
funny?
good. You
Is
did.
this funny? I'm still angry
You
about this.
did not have a good lunch.
So the only bad thing that happened,
besides the rain.
well, but the rain happens. I don't consider that a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right. We were on the patio, sitting at a little four-sided picnic table, having lunch, and I'd scooted over to get something out of my bag, and so I was kind of leaning off of the seat. Mm-hmm. And my camera was on the table with a very expensive rented telephoto lens. And as I'm leaning over and tilting sideways on this little bench seat, someone on the opposite side of the table got up, and the entire table flipped up like this. And my camera flew up in the air and slammed back first down on the concrete floor.
You were not happy.
And I'm not done yet. And this massive lens snapped off of my camera. So I'm losing my mind at this point. And the things that are going through my head are, number one, oh crap, I broke this hugely expensive lens. Thankfully, I bought the insurance as part of the rental package. But even worse than that, the race is going to start in a half an hour, and I don't have this big lens. And I'm there to see the race. I mean, that's the whole focal point of this weekend is the 1000bulbs.com 500 race. And I'm not going to have this big lens to be able to get those up close pictures of the cars. I've got some great pictures with the lens of the truck race, and I'm starting to post those out. But and then started taking a look at it and realized that the aluminum ring that connects the lens to my camera was stuck on my camera. Mm-hmm. It had bent, and I could not get it off. So not only do I not have this big lens available, but I can't take this ring off to put other lenses that I had on.
Right.
So I couldn't even use my camera the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
That was probably the most disappointing thing for me.
Yeah.
Was not only losing the big lens, but losing my camera for the rest of the weekend.
Yep.
So anyway, stuff happens, and, life happens, and you deal with it and you move on, and nothing terrible resulted from that. Mm-hmm. We picked up, I threw the lens in my bag, grabbed my phone. I mean, that's how you roll. You're the iPhone photo queen.
Well, I only use iPhone, or I only use an iPhone for everything that we do on WhereGalsWander. So that's
your go-to.
That's my go-to. Yeah.
So we headed out to the pits again, and a very different vibe.
Yeah.
On Sunday. I mean, I really enjoyed the truck race, and I know that, and even one or two of the drivers expressed, that the truck racers, don't get their due. But the NASCAR Cup is the granddaddy, and that's the big deal.
There's definitely a sense of reverence, I think.
There is,
yeah.
and so we went out to the pits, and there are more Cup cars than there are Gander outdoor trucks. Mm-hmm. So the pits were full. So we didn't have the opportunity to have these empty pit areas that we could step out into to get right up to the edge of the pits. Mm-hmm. But we still had lots of access in between the pits.
Yes.
Kind of. So each pit, obviously it's full of tires, and it's full of these big gas cans. You see them lift up and dump into the cars, and the crew and all the different parts. And then they also have this 2-story platform set up there with a tent over it, with the crew chief and other crew members in the front, so that they can see not only exactly, they can look down on the pits and see what's going on, but they can also see around the track and see what's going on. And then guests and family and stuff sit in kind of the backside. So these pit areas are absolutely jam full of stuff. But there's enough space in between the pits for us to be able to get some good shots.
Yes.
So we're standing there, we're filming the pit crews, we're filming the people going by, we're trying to do some slow-mo stuff that was kind of cool. And I see emergency vehicle go around, and I think they're scanning the track for debris. They're just checking to make sure everything's cool prior to the start of the race. And then I'm not really paying attention at this point because the race hasn't started, but I see the single car go by, the single NASCAR go by. And then here comes the pink breast cancer awareness pace car leading all of the drivers around. You know, they're getting ready. They're doing the warm-up laps. And it only takes a minute or so for them to go around the track. So I see the truck come by again, and I'm paying attention this time.
Yeah.
And the car comes out, the single car, and it's number 3.
Right.
And it's Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s car.
Yeah.
The last race that he won was at Talladega. This is the exact car that he drove in that race.
How cool
is that? At Talladega. Yeah. And his friend and team owner Richard Childress actually owns Dale Sr.'s car, and was driving it. I think they call it a green light lamp, green flag lap or something. Okay. To honor Dale, because he won Talladega 10 times, more than anyone else has ever won Talladega. But it's also Talladega's 50th anniversary.
Oh, how cool.
So it was, and again, I've never been a huge NASCAR fan. I've certainly been aware of NASCAR, and I got goosebumps watching that number 3 car heading around the track in Talladega. So that was a pretty cool moment. And then we see the cars come around again. We see the pace car come into pit row, and then they light it up right in front of us. And there is nothing like 40 NASCAR all gunning it at the same time.
I know. It gets your blood pumping.
It was so loud.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
I kind of dug the sound of all those engines revving and racing. And you really have no idea the skill of these drivers, how close they get, and the maneuvers that they make, and the reaction time that they have. I mean, I said, I could drive race cars. No. I mean, even in the pits, coming into the pits and out of the pits and trying to avoid each other and stuff. And, there wound up being, quite a few pretty big crashes during the race.
Well, so at some point it started to rain.
We got through stage 1.
Yeah.
And by that point, because I didn't have my camera, we're both using the phones, I think we both decided we have what we can get from here. We have the pictures that we can get. We have the video that we can get. So we decided to head back over to the RV.
Right.
Because we also wanted to experience watching the race from the RV. Because, I mean, that's the whole reason why you get this spot. You get this number 1 spot in premium RV finish line parking.
Yep.
So your RV is right in front of the finish line, right up against the track. So we headed back over to the RV. And then
the rain came.
Yeah,
it was about 10 minutes after we got to the RV. Just started pouring down rain. So they had to call the race, and it was actually delayed until the following day and resumed while we were at the airport.
On Monday.
Monday, yeah.
So they got through stage 1. They postponed the race, rescheduled it for Monday. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see the end of the race, but we did watch a NASCAR YouTube video last night that kind of caught us up on everything, the highlights and the stage finishes and the crashes. And
lots of crashes.
What a finish.
Yeah.
The 6th closest finish in NASCAR history.
I know. Nice job, Ryan Blaney. Yeah.
Literally by a nose.
Yeah.
He won that race. So then we packed up the next morning. We headed back.
Yep.
Got to Atlanta. We dropped off the Tundra.
Yep.
Which I love driving that truck.
I know.
I love that it's a truck and it's a manly truck, but it's comfortable.
It's
right,
very
smooth, and it's not intimidating.
The level of detail in the truck is just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also had a chance to meet up with a good friend of mine Adam Asher from The Edge of Adventure. So we all met up to grab a meal at the airport before we flew out. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to do that.
It was good to see him.
Yeah, it was very cool. So, and then back to LA.
Back to LA.
Yeah, and here we are.
Yeah.
Back in California doing California exploring.
So it was a great weekend. There's so many people to thank. Christy from NASCAR, you were awesome. It was an absolutely spectacular weekend. To the drivers and the crew members that took the time to sit down with us and talk with us and educate us a little bit on NASCAR. There wasn't one person that we met that wasn't just nice and polite and helpful, and
just good
there really
people.
is something to Southern hospitality, and you could feel it as soon as we got down there.
Yeah, it's a special place. Yeah.
So we're looking forward to more adventures coming up. Again, Suburban Men, WhereGalsWander, and California Exploring. We've got a ton of stuff to put out there. I've got 2,200 pictures that I took with my camera before I broke it. I'm sure you've probably got more iPhone pictures than that. We've got hours of video we need to go through.
Yeah.
We'll be working on that for the rest of this week to get as much posted as we can. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channels, follow us on social media, and we will see you again next week.
All right.
Good night.
Night.